Hello. Welcome back to Snugglewood, young Dreamlynx. My name is Aaron. Snuggle down into your coziest quilt and let tonight's calming tale and soothing sounds relieve you of any worries and guide you towards a deep, restful night's sleep under these beautiful stars above. And so our story begins in a place called Kindheart Meadows and the sleepy giant tale of Serenity Springs. Surrounded by undulating hills and enormous stretches of flourishing meadows lies a place called Serenity Springs. Known for its serene landscapes, this remote haven exudes a stillness that permeates its very being. However, what truly makes Serenity Springs special is the lore whispered from generation to generation about the sleepy giant, a being that is said to dwell beyond the forest's ridges, bringing peace to all who come near. The path to the sleepy giant's resting place begins at the edge of Serenity Springs, marked by an ancient oak. Towering above all other trees, the oak has weathered countless seasons and seems to loom with timeless wisdom. From its base, the path winds its way through a dense woodland, where the air is thick with the aroma of pine and earth. The sunlight filters in through cracks between the canopy above, scattering across the ground in patches that resemble tiny pools of warmth. The giants of Serenity Springs often speak of the tranquility that flows through the forest. They say the deeper one ventures into the woods, the more calm they become. It is as though the very air carries an unspoken promise of rest, inviting weary souls to pause and feel the weight of the world lift from their shoulders. There, among the trees, all semblances of urgency drift away, leaves rustling as if punctuating the silence with an unhurried pace. Beyond the forest lies a glade, vast and open, where golden wildflowers sway in synchrony to a special feel alive in the valley. At its center rises a hill, blanketed in moss that appears softer than any pillow. This hill is where the sleepy giant is said to slumber, cradled in a basin carved over centuries by nature's hand. Its form blends seamlessly with the earth, concealed yet very much present, as though sleeping in the tender curve of the hill. Each contour of the land seems to shelter its being, and while no one can say they've truly seen the giant, those who wander here often feel a weightless comfort, as though stepping further into a dreamscape. Long before Serenity Springs came to be, the giant roamed great expanses, its stride carving valleys and its breath shaping skies. Travelers sought its wisdom, following trails of wildflowers left in its wake. It listened to their woes, absorbing their burdens as effortlessly as a mountain absorbs a fleeting wind. Over time, having gathered the worries of countless souls, the giant sought rest, retreating into the hillside where it lay down, merging slowly with the earth it so loved to shape. Perhaps it is those very worries, stilled and absorbed, that nurture the air of the valley. Everything here exudes peace. The hills roll lazily into the horizon. The streams ebb forward with measured pacing. And even the breezes wander as though unhurried by the passage of time. Locals often mention how animals flock most near the hill, finding quiet comfort in spaces untouched by disturbance. Birds descend onto branches and pause, as if somehow lulled. Deer step cautiously, curling onto bedding areas that lie between wildflowers. Skyward, clouds seem drawn specifically to this place, arriving as if in search of reprieve. Wisps of white lazily drift overhead, in a harmony that matches the movement of life below. When rain falls, it appears to cascade softer than usual, soaking into the land with care. And in those moments following a storm, the colours radiate more vividly, each droplet clinging to petals and catching streaks from skies tinted in gold and blue. Stories among Serenity Springs' residents abound about the experiences arising near the hill. Explorers who might have been burdened by long journeys feel the heaviness leave their steps as they approach. Individuals wrestling with sleepy nights find unnoticed hours passing by as eyes close and breaths slow. Even the most restless little giants visiting the glade find a rare kind of stillness. Their energy shifted into the calm curiosity of admiring fields and hills. It's no wonder many have come to believe visiting the hill is like finding one's own essential stillness incarnate. It's no wonder many have come to believe visiting the hill is like finding one's own essential stillness. This tranquility extends well beyond the glade and into the heart of Serenity Springs itself. The area is marked by winding cobblestone paths, shaded by canopies of willow trees, whose long branches sway lazily toward a trickling stream running parallel through its center. Nearby houses, each quaint and adorned by tended gardens, seem to rest comfortably within their surroundings, rather than apart from them. Here, time moves differently. A languid place, avoiding the rush known elsewhere. Even activity, like the flow of life itself, takes on a pattern guided not by urgency, but by enduring contentment in ease. Many believe the presence of the sleepy giant permeates the air itself, influencing both living and landscape. Farmers claim their soil holds unmatched richness, producing harvests abundant, not in just yield, but also immense satisfaction. Artisans at work describe moments of inspiration that feel instinctive in creativity, as if mirroring a large harmony surrounding them. And visitors, though fleeting, are rarely uninfluenced. They marvel at sensations that feel unburdening, recounting silent connections that seem woven into their stays, aligning thoughts closer toward clarity. Still, the greatest legacy of this law remains the enduring calm settled across visitors and inhabitants alike. The sight of sunrise over the glade invites one to watch, as colours blend between cool blues and warmth drape across the sky, mirroring how this sanctuary cradles change naturally. Sunset finds hues deepening slower, scattering across waters lingering between shallower inlets. For every ear listening close enough, there is an invitation written between the tree branches, reaching toward whose roots reach deeper across shared communities. The canopy sways gently above as the air carries the whisper of leaves, brushing in tandem with unseen tides of wind. Patterns form and dissolve, a dance of light through foliage, moving endlessly across moss-covered ground in timeless patience. Serenity Springs hugs its seasons in a lullaby, neither hurried nor delayed. A pattern distinct to this place, as if the essence of time bows to the gentle pull of its heart. The shallows nurture reflections, not only of the landscape that surrounds, but of something more. A stillness resides in the ripples that stretch and disperse with perfect impermanence. A mirror that knows the language of fleeting moments. Often regarded by passing travellers as ordinary, the inlets and streams of this sanctuary nurture something much greater than the visible spring-fed waters. This is a home not to the ordinary, but to the timeless exchanges between earth, sky, and all the living things in between. Overhead, the sky deepens its tones as the day meanders toward the cusp of twilight. A soft luminescence radiates from the horizon, as though the air itself has borrowed the essence of light and diffused it into a living glow. Along one narrow path, winding beneath branches that twist like threads, stitching earth to sky, the trail seems to guide moments rather than destinations. To tread this space is not to travel to a point, but to immerse oneself in unfolding presence. Near where the inlet bends and pools briefly, before trailing its waters downstream, the undergrowth opens to stones smooth with time's touch. This batch of forest floor rises with barely an incline, forming a hidden cove adorned with green ferns, unfurling like resting hands. It carries a sense of being held, as though such places wait deliberately to cradle those who stumble quietly into their midst. Patterns emerge here as the quiet awakens attention. A low boulder, finely etched by years of gentle erosions, leans beside an ancient willow, whose roots anchor closely to nourishing waters. The riverbed it guards holds echoes of the moon and stars, silt and reflections graining into spaces held closely, but not too expansive for capturing. Life resonates through this pocketed terrain, though outwardly the overwhelming impression is quietude. Birds trace arcs above, or pause instinctively mid-perch. Their presence, small markers of infinity's tapestry. Beneath swept foliage, animals tread slowly upon sound-muffled grounds, placer-shaped movements that etch the signature of grounded patience. Even here, where the pace of time feels all but stationary, no force stands still. Change breathes steady and ceaseless, spiraling through tree trunk contours and layers of bark long thickened smooth. Through such persistent quiet undulation, new thrives hand in hand with ages past. Among the quiet breaths of time, the peace of the landscape awakens with an historic constancy. Valley floors mimic the murmurs of soft-running streams, their pathways etched by years of gentle persistence, winding unhurriedly through the slumbering earth. Moss carpets the stones along the banks, each green strand holding its own story, an individual piece stitched seamlessly into a much larger narrative. Trees lean in close to listen, their roots anchoring firmly into the earth, while their limbs whisper upward, their patience entwining with the push of the wind to create endless, unbroken continuity. Above, the expanse of the sky stretches wide and boundless, unmarked yet alive with subtle change. Light filters softly, its movement slow, crafting an evolving canvas across the heavens. With each passing moment, shadows stretch and retreat, as if chasing after something unseen, but always just out of reach. The landscape, wrapped in this celestial choreography, remains attuned to the ebb and flow, holding no anticipation for beginnings or endings, only the steady presence of now. Grass moves with barely perceptible motion, running in mirrored ripples to patterns carried across the surface of the nearby lake. Beneath that unfurling surface lies another world, its quiet stillness a contrast to the arcs above. Small glimpses catch the eye, a dart of motion, a glisten pressed against the current before dissolving back into layers. Here, there is a stillness within flow, a quiet which does not shy away, but rests wholly, complete unto itself. Paths weave through the land, barely discernible at first glance, their positions suggested more than defined. They invite without demand, revealing themselves only through closer reach, where marks worn into earth tell tales of slow tread softened by time. Footfalls, present or long faded, carry a kindred trace, a conversation carried between wayfarer and place. The passage alone shapes purpose, the act of walking enough to deepen this unseen bond. Rocky ridges rise in muted contours, their forms draw like whispers against the horizon. Each stone bears the mark of presence uncounted, witness to unbroken cycles stretched past memory's reach. The grooves and edges carved into them hold stories unread, their language one of permanence, guided by the patient erosion of rain, wind, and time itself. Even so, there is no rush. Each fragment speaks of eternity's unyielding calm, never hurried, only present. There is something to following the quiet layers of this place, allowing its language to fill far beyond one's grasp, yet still easy to feel. Thought gives way to the weightlessness drift of being. No need to capture or define. Each moment stretches wide and whole, as if the act of noticing allows the unseen threads to draw closer. It becomes clear that what surrounds does not press forward. It folds inward effortlessly. Over time, wildflowers dot sparse corners of the land, their placement uneven yet perfectly balanced. Their petals hold both fragility and endurance, colours ranging across soft bursts that seem to shift depending on the angle of light. Alone, they appear simple, yet together carry the texture of something deeply cultivated by hands unseen. Their scent lingers slightly, not to overtake, but to accompany, a soft promise written into the air. Even as evening begins to brush the edges, the presence remains unbroken. The view deepens where ridge lines soften their contrast against the dimming tones beyond. The day folds and edges blend almost perfectly. Everything seems drawn closer by shadow, yet balance remains steady, depth meeting warmth as silence falls, not as absence, but as resting space. And while one's gaze may move outward, exploring the sprawl of this environment's texture, it also inherently loops inward. Time blurs in a way that feels less like passing and more like layering. Intricate folds creating moments shaped outside measurement. Breath slows without effort, as if synchronizing naturally to the pace emitted only here, only now. This rhythm carries on unnoticed, weaving itself like threads of an endless loom. Nothing demands awareness, yet the simple act of noticing unveils more. The spaces between grow vast, yet comfort springs from their reach. Each branch, each stone, each shifting strand of grass appears to move without motion, harmony knitting together the whole. It is a space not tampered, yet inclusive, at once complete, yet welcoming of presence, however fleeting. Across the lake, where mirrored skies deepen into a soft twilight glow, stillness persists. The reflections ripple slightly, neither obscuring nor perfectly holding the world seen from above. It is neither mimicry nor distortion, but something altogether its own. The surface speaks of another realm, one not separate, but layered and interwoven into the visible world. To watch it is to feel a story unfurling, much like the pathways once walked upon that led to here. Night gathers in increments, slow enough to escape notice. Not overt, simply arriving. The air changes slightly, a familiar weight settling in alignment with deepening surroundings. High above, stars begin their quiet descent into view. Constellations stretch into shapes known and unknown, guides to far-off edges, yet grounded, still where each moment meets itself. Lying beneath such a sky feels like releasing into a sea held above. Small details sharpen with the cooling hush, the ambient rustle of unseen wings, distant calls carried only just, and the deep echo pressed into breezes sliding over earthen presence. Though boundless, the night shares its reach freely, while folding space tight in moments now only felt. The sense of wonder settles here, but softly, as if a sigh carried by surroundings. It can only exist when sought without expectation, when presence itself becomes enough. To watch this place, to listen without sound, is to understand it lies both within and without, seamless and shared. All things persist here, overlapping, timeless yet momentary, in a span that holds steady regardless. It is not absence, but wholeness, quiet, but expansive. The sleeping giant, draped beneath timeless skies, reveals its gift not through show, but through presence unyielding. Here, all parts coalesce, not just the land or the sky, but the threads that hold the movement between. And in staying still long enough to notice, perhaps even linger, one feels the world shaping once more, not for, but with them, until one's breath aligns as part of this silent equilibrium. The whispers of the breeze carry stories untold, woven into the fabric of existence that the sleeping giant encapsulates. Beneath the towering ancient woods where it rests, time persists infinitely. It stretches not forward or back, but outward, as though the giant itself breathes with the cosmos. The shadows of the trees change, a slow dance that mirrors the life flowing beneath them. roots entwined as deeply as memories forged in stillness. The air feels exaggerated, yet serene here, with a silence so unmistakable it doesn't deafen, but tunes the ear to every small whisper of life that grooves within the earth. The call of a bird, the rustle of leaves carried by an unhurried wind, and the subtle essence of life stitch themselves into the very essence of being. People often pass through these sacred places too quickly, their pace dictated by lives that demand haste. Yet, within these ancient spaces, there exists no clock, no need for urgency. The giant sleeps, unconcerned by the constructs of human time. Every inch of its surface carries evidence of patience. The slow erosion by flowing rivers, the layering of leaves from endless seasons, every piece etched by centuries of change. It reveals a story of persistence without effort, creation without rush, and a quiet surrender to the natural flow of existence. The sleeping giant's presence gently commands reflection, as though gazing into its stillness primes the observer to seek their own. Here, the distractions of the modern, frantic world melt away, leaving only the essential, the ebb and flow of breath, the beating heart, the quiet within that has always been waiting to be acknowledged. The vibration of something greater is what matters. Universal, eternal. Even the smallest stone, resting unmoving on the giant's surface, seems to vibrate with this energy. A reminder of just how connected every piece of the world truly is. And yet, there is no grand declaration to be found. The sleeping giant unfolds its truth as gently as a petal uncurling in spring. Soft, deliberate, but entirely unassuming. There is no pomp in its message, only that the observer must come prepared to linger. It asks for nothing, but gives much. A silent teacher in the art of being, rather than doing. The soil beneath the feet feels grounding, pulling one back to the core truths so easily forgotten in modern life. Being here feels like being held, not constrained, but supported by something protective and immense. The gift of the sleeping giant lies within this stillness and presence it offers so unconditionally. Here, there is no striving for answers, only the steady realization that they may have been there all along, waiting for silence to bring them forth. And as the sky shifts from twilight to the veil of night, the giant seems to exhale, carrying the visitor in its reprieve. A visit to this place is not one of endings, but rather continuations. A quiet assurance that the world moves as it should. And we are part of this magic, steady and eternal. With each step away, something lingers, a calm that goes with you, reshaping how you breathe, how you move, how you simply are. The restlessness of the world may await your return, but somewhere deep within, the sleeping giant's echo endures. A reminder of stillness, of wholeness, of life lived not against, but alongside the great silent truth.